On a separate issue, you will have seen, as Health Secretary, you weren't Health Secretary at the time, but you were Shadow Health Secretary when Lucy Letby was convicted. You'll have seen, completely improper for either you or I to discuss how that was reached in terms of that verdict. But there is this campaign, you'll have seen, lots of people expressing their view about that conviction, not least David Davis, very senior Conservative MP. You'll have seen as well that the families of some of the victims of the babies who were killed or injured as part of that entire incident have expressed their horror this morning and saying that they are deeply, deeply aggrieved and shocked that anybody, particularly in public life, should question that verdict. What do you think about senior figures expressing doubt about that conviction and that trial?
I'd say a couple of things. Firstly, I'm with the families on this, and I cannot imagine the unbelievable grief they must be going through without the constant speculation about whether someone who has been convicted for these murders with multiple whole life sentences, being effectively presumed innocent by a number of people. I'm not saying that David Davis, by the way, is presuming her innocence. He's raising questions about, the data sets that people are bringing forward and the questions that clinicians are raising.
About whether there was reasonable doubt.
About whether there was reasonable doubt and what the data is saying. And so that brings me on to the second point about the way in which questions are raised. Letby had the right to appeal. She took her appeal to the Court of Appeal, and that appeal was rejected in a judgment that went to over 50 pages. So it was a thorough consideration of the appeal, and it was rejected. There is now the avenue open to the Criminal Case Review Board to present the case that there was an unfair trial and that it should go to appeal. And the Criminal Case Review Board, if they look at the weight of the argument and consider it should go to appeal and that there is a reasonable chance of success at appeal, they can refer back. And so what I would say to campaigners, whether it's Lucy Letby's legal team or any of the others writing letters, there is a judicial process to follow. If you think there is a case, follow the judicial process. And I would just say, out of respect to the families, do it quietly.
But people commenting on social media
I actually think it is crass and insensitive to be waging a public campaign in this way, because we can just debate it, you and I. Listeners can debate it. We can read the newspapers. We're not the Criminal Case Review Board. We have an independent judiciary in this country. I think we have a fair and successful independent judiciary in this country. Let the judicial process run its course. There is no purpose to a media campaign. It is for the courts to decide on the basis of evidence. And I would just remind people that, we always presume innocence until people have been found guilty. Lucy Letby has been found guilty on multiple counts of serious crimes with multiple whole life sentences. And until the courts find reason to suggest otherwise, we should continue to regard her as a convicted killer, serving multiple life sentences, delivering justice for those families going through unimaginable and intolerable grief.